Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Right.
And um, today we're going to be looking at strategic design.
Ooh, strategic design.
Yeah, but we've got like a really cool case study this time.
Oh,
Yeah, from the University of Antwerp.
okay.
And it's their product development department.
Okay.
And they were facing some pretty serious budget cuts.
Oh, no.
And they're looking at strategic design as like a way to kind of survive this.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we've got all this great material to work with.
Awesome.
We've got like their study guide, their lecture notes, and even their like survival strategy document that they put together.
Wow, sounds like they're taking it seriously.
Yeah, so it should be a really interesting deep dive.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig in.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
So strategic design, it's kind of like a buzzword you hear a lot these days.
right.
But what does it actually mean? Like, how is it different from just regular old design?
Yeah, it's more than just a buzzword. It's really about a fundamental shift in the role of designers.
Okay.
In the past, designers were often seen as just service providers. Like they would get a brief and they would execute it.
Yeah, make it pretty.
Exactly. But strategic design is about designers becoming key players in shaping an organization's future.
Okay, so it's like less about aesthetics and more about strategy.
Exactly. It's about moving from that service provider role to a strategic partner role.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
And the University of Antwerp's case study is a perfect example of this shift in action.
Right.
So their study guide emphasizes this move from like designer as order taker to designer as like a strategic visionary.
Yeah, I like that.
Have you ever seen this kind of thing in action, maybe without even realizing it was strategic design at play?
Let me think. I think the evolution of smartphones is a really good example.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, in the early days, it was all about the technology.
Yeah, like faster processors, better screens.
Exactly. But as the market matured, design became the key differentiator.
Right, like the look and feel, the user experience.
Exactly. Those became strategic weapons in the fight for market share.
That's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
So in the University of Antwerp's case, they're facing this landscape where traditional design education might not be enough anymore.
Right.
Like they need to be more strategic about how they approach design education in order to survive.
Absolutely.
Their survival strategy actually outlines 4 key perspectives within strategic design.
Okay.
2 of them that I think are particularly relevant to their situation are the big picture perspective
Okay.
and the management perspective.
Got it.
So with the big picture perspective, they can't just focus on tweaking their course offerings.
Right.
They need to understand like the larger trends in education,
Yeah.
like the challenges facing universities globally,
Mm-hmm.
and how design can help them not just adapt, but actually lead the way.
Yeah, it's about seeing the forest, not just the trees.
Exactly. And then the management perspective emphasizes the need for designers to think about the business side of things.
Right.
Like how can design be used to create value,
Mm-hmm.
to innovate, to
Mm.
make organizations more competitive?
Yeah, it's about bringing design thinking into the boardroom.
Exactly. So it's like zooming out from designing a better lecture hall
Okay.
to rethinking what a 21st century university should even be.
That's a great analogy.
And that brings us to, I think, a really key distinction in strategic design.
Okay. What's that?
It's the difference between a strategic question and a design question.
Got it.
The lecture notes actually make this super clear with a great example about a swimming pool.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So imagine you're a company like Decathlon, known for like sports equipment.
Right.
A design question would be like, how do we design the most innovative swimming pool?
Okay.
But a strategic question goes deeper.
Okay.
It asks, should we even be building swimming pools at all? Or should we focus on, say, developing cutting-edge athletic wear that might have a larger market?
Right. So it's about questioning the assumptions.
Exactly. And the University of Antwerp, staring down these budget cuts, is being forced to ask some seriously strategic questions,
Yeah, like their very existence is on the line.
right? It's not just how do we improve our design program. It's more like what is the core value we bring?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we make that value indispensable in a changing world?
Those are the tough questions.
Yeah, and it's often in these moments of crisis that strategic thinking finally gets the attention it deserves.
Right. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly. So the survival document includes this really interesting SWOT analysis.
A SWOT analysis.
Yeah, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Right. So it's a way to assess their current situation.
Exactly. And their strengths are pretty classic, strong reputation, experienced faculty, solid industry connections.
Okay. Sounds like a good foundation.
But what's interesting is they highlight their multidisciplinary approach as a key strength, too.
Multidisciplinary. That's intriguing.
Yeah, so they're not just a design school. They're a hub for, like, cross-pollination of ideas.
I see.
But then you look at their weaknesses.
Okay, let's hear it.
Faculty are stretched thin, limited awareness of the product development field, even the high cost of materials for students.
Oh, wow. So they've got some internal challenges to overcome.
Yeah, and it's not just about listing strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
It's about understanding their implications.
Okay.
Like that multidisciplinary approach, while a strengths could also be a challenge.
Yeah.
Like how do you coordinate across departments?
Yeah.
Ensure everyone's on the same page strategically.
Right.
How do you market that unique value proposition effectively?
Those are good points. It's like having a superpower that you haven't quite figured out how to control yet.
Exactly. And of course, looming over all of this are the threats. So you've got the budget cuts themselves, competition from other universities, difficulty recruiting students in a tight market.
Oof, that's a lot to contend with.
And they even mentioned the potential risk to their intellectual property.
Oh, wow. Their very ideas are at risk.
Yeah, it's a pretty precarious situation.
Yeah. So with all of these challenges and threats they're facing, they're having to ask themselves a really fundamental question.
Okay, what's that? What is our backbone?
Mm-hmm.
What is the core strength we would cling to even in a crisis?
That's a powerful question.
And for the University of Antwerp, they've identified that multidisciplinary quality as their backbone.
It makes sense given their diverse faculty and the potential for some really innovative collaborations.
Exactly. It's like the one thing they believe they can truly own and excel at.
Right. It's their unique advantage.
And what's fascinating is that they're not just trying to survive.
Okay.
They're actually trying to leverage this crisis to become even stronger.
Now, that's a strategic mindset.
Yeah. So they're turning to a tool that's really popular in the business world.
Okay, what's that?
It's called the Business Model Canvas, or BMC.
The BMC, I've heard of that.
Yeah. It's a great way to visualize and assess how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value.
So it's like a blueprint for their operations.
Exactly. And in the university's case, I think the value proposition block is super crucial.
Yeah. What are they offering that truly solves a problem or meets a need in a unique way?
Right. And they're clearly using the BMC to reimagine their entire model with this thing called the Antwerp Design Factory at the center.
The Antwerp Design Factory, what's that all about?
It's like this hub for innovation and collaboration where students, faculty, and industry partners can all come together.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. And it's not just about tweaking existing programs.
Okay.
They're searching for like entirely new ways to create and deliver value.
So they're looking for a blue ocean.
A blue ocean, is that like a metaphor?
Yeah, it is. It comes from the blue ocean strategy, which is all about creating uncontested market space.
Uncontested market space.
Yeah.
So like where competition is irrelevant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine a crowded red ocean.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
It's bloody with competition. Everyone's fighting over the same customers, the same resources.
Yeah, that sounds stressful.
Instead of fighting there, you create your own blue ocean.
Oh, I like that. A calm, open market where you set the rules.
Exactly.
So it's like finding a niche that no one else is occupying. Do you have any like real-world examples of this blue ocean strategy in action?
Oh, yeah. A classic example is Cirque du Soleil.
Oh, Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They completely reinvented the circus experience.
Right. They moved away from animals and towards artistry.
Exactly. They created a new experience, a new market, and they thrived.
That's a great example. And we see hints of this blue ocean thinking in the University of Antwerp's plan, too.
Oh, really? How so?
They're aiming to attract international students and clients for the design factory.
Interesting.
They're reaching beyond traditional geographic and educational boundaries.
So they're creating their own unique market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a bold move, potentially risky, but also potentially brilliant if they pull it off.
Agreed. And to make sure they're truly meeting those new customer needs,
Yeah.
they're also utilizing the value proposition canvas.
The value proposition canvas, what is that?
It's another tool that helps ensure alignment between what you offer and what your customer actually wants.
Okay, so it's about understand your target audience. Exactly. It forces you to think about your customers' jobs.
Jobs, like what they're trying to achieve.
Exactly, as well as their pains.
Pains, like the challenges they face.
Right, and their gains.
Gains, like the outcomes they desire.
Precisely.
Okay, so you have to really get inside the head of your customer.
Yeah, empathy is key.
And on the flip side, you map out your value map,
Right.
which is like your products and services.
Yeah.
How they address those pains
Yeah.
and how they create gains for the customer.
It's a powerful way to get out of your own head and into the mind of your target audience.
And speaking of target audiences, I have a question for our listeners.
Shoot.
Think about a product you use regularly.
Okay.
How well does its value proposition truly align with your needs? Does it solve a problem for you?
Yeah.
Or is it just something you've gotten used to?
That's a great question to ponder.
Yeah, it makes you think about the things we take for granted.
And it leads us to a concept that, while not explicitly mentioned in the survival document, is definitely lurking beneath the surface. Ooh, mysterious. Tell me more.
It's the idea of wicked problems.
Wicked problems. Now, those sound intriguing. What are we talking about here?
Think of problems so complex with so many interconnected factors that there's no easy solution.
Okay, so like really messy problems.
Exactly. Like climate change or poverty.
Right, those are big ones.
Or, well, revitalizing a struggling university department in a rapidly changing world.
Oh yeah, that fits the bill.
They're messy with lots of stakeholders, and often what seems like a solution just creates a new set of problems.
So how do you even begin to tackle a wicked problem?
Well, the lecture notes mention systemic design as a possible approach.
Systemic design, what's that all about?
It's about understanding the whole system.
Okay.
The web of relationships and feedback loops that create these complex issues.
So it's not about finding a quick fix.
Right.
It's about long-term sustainable solutions that address the root causes.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how all of these pieces fit together.
Me too.
The University of Antwerp is facing a wicked problem. Yeah, declining enrollment budget cuts a changing educational landscape.
And they're turning to strategic design thinking systemically to chart a path forward.
It's not just about designing a better brochure. Yeah. It's about redesigning their entire approach.
And to illustrate the danger of not thinking systemically, we have this fascinating concept called the Cobra effect.
The Cobra effect? Please tell me this doesn't actually involve snakes.
No snakes involved, thankfully. But it's a great story about unintended consequences.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So the story goes that during British rule in India, there was a problem with venomous cobras.
Okay.
And to reduce the population, the government offered a bounty for every dead cobra.
Seems logical enough.
Right. But people are clever, and they saw an opportunity.
Oh, what did they do?
They started breeding cobras just to collect the bounty.
Oh, no.
And when the government realized this, they scrapped the program.
Okay.
But then people released all those captive cobras back into the wild.
So the cobra population actually increased.
Exactly, because the very policy meant to reduce it.
Wow, that's a major backfire.
Talk about unintended consequences.
And that's the essence of the Cobra effect.
Right. It reminds us that we can't just address symptoms.
We have to understand the underlying system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if the University of Antwerp just focuses on, say, attracting more students without addressing the root causes of their financial challenges,
they could end up in a worse position down the line.
Exactly. So they need to be very careful that their solutions,
right,
like focusing on international students expanding the design factory, don't inadvertently create new problems down the line.
Agreed. It's a delicate balance.
So how do they strike that balance between boldness and caution?
Right.
Ambition and pragmatism.
Well, their survival document mentions a testing phase.
A testing phase.
A period of experimentation and evaluation.
So instead of going all in on any one strategy,
they're taking a more measured approach.
Okay.
They're identifying key projects and investments that align with their overall vision.
Right.
And then piloting those initiatives to see what works and what needs to be adjusted.
It's like dipping their toes in the water before diving in head first.
Exactly. They're testing the temperature, assessing the currents before committing to a full swim.
And that allows them to gather valuable data.
Yes.
To learn from their mistakes.
Right.
And to refine their approach as they go.
It's a much more agile and adaptive way of operating.
It is essential in today's rapidly changing world.
Absolutely.
But it also requires a certain level of tolerance for ambiguity.
True.
A willingness to embrace uncertainty.
Not every organization is comfortable with that.
Right. They want a clear plan, a predictable outcome.
It's understandable, but the world doesn't always work that way.
And it's where leadership plays a crucial role.
Absolutely.
The leaders of the University of Antwerp need to be able to communicate this vision of strategic agility.
Yeah.
To inspire their faculty and staff to embrace this more experimental approach.
It's a shift from a command and control leadership style
to something more collaborative and adaptable.
Exactly.
They need to create an environment where people feel empowered to experiment, to take risks, and to learn from their failures.
That's how innovation happens.
And that's where the culture of an organization comes into play.
Right.
If the University of Antwerp has traditionally been a very hierarchical, risk-averse institution,
this shift to a more strategic, design-driven approach could be met with resistance.
It's almost like they're trying to change the DNA of the organization.
And that's not an easy feat.
So it all circles back to that idea of their multidisciplinary approach,
Right.
being both a strength and a challenge.
Can they leverage the diverse perspectives and expertise within the department to create a truly innovative and adaptable culture?
That's the million-dollar question.
And it's something we'll continue to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Yes, we'll delve deeper into the specifics of their plan and the potential implications for the future of design education.
I can't wait.
Me neither. This is really fascinating stuff. We're starting to see how strategic design is not just a set of tools or techniques.
Right.
It's a mindset, a way of thinking about problems and solutions.
It's about understanding the whole system, embracing uncertainty, and fostering a culture of experimentation and collaboration.
It's about recognizing that design can be a powerful force for change.
Not just in the products and services we create,
Right.
but also in the organizations we build and the future we shape.
That's a great way to put it.
So is this the future of design education?
Is the University of Antwerp a trailblazer?
Or are they going down a path that others will be forced to follow?
These are the questions that are swirling in my mind right now.
Mine too.
And we'll continue to explore them as we dig deeper into this case study.
I'm excited to see where this deep dive takes us.
Me too.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the next part where we'll really get into the nitty-gritty of their plan and the potential challenges and opportunities they face.
Can't wait.
Okay, so we've established that the University of Antwerp is making like a pretty bold move,
Yeah.
potentially reshaping the landscape of design education.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with the excitement of blue oceans
Right.
and global expansion, let's take a closer look at the specifics of their plan.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
So their survival document outlines this multi-pronged approach
Okay.
with the Antwerp Design Factory as like this central hub.
Right. They keep mentioning that.
And it's interesting how they're positioning the Design Factory. It's not just a place for students to learn.
Right.
It's also becoming like a revenue-generating engine for the department.
Ah, so they're trying to make it self-sustaining.
Exactly. They're talking about attracting clients with competitive pricing,
Okay.
potentially even undercutting some of the big design firms out there.
Oh, that's a bold move.
It's a risky strategy for sure, but it could be a way to disrupt the market
Right.
and create that blue ocean they're aiming for.
But it also raises some questions.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, can they maintain quality while keeping prices low?
Right.
How will they balance client work with the educational needs of their students?
Those are valid concerns. It's a tough balancing act.
And this is where I think their multidisciplinary approach could be both an asset and a challenge.
Okay. How so?
If they can successfully leverage their diverse expertise,
Right.
they could potentially offer a wider range of services
Yeah.
at a more competitive price point.
So it's like being a one-stop shop for design solutions.
Exactly. Like need a new prototype, they've got engineers and industrial designers.
Yeah.
Need a marketing campaign to launch it. They've got communication and graphic design experts.
That's a compelling value proposition.
But managing all those different disciplines,
Yeah.
ensuring seamless collaboration and consistent quality, that's a whole other challenge.
It's a massive coordination effort.
And it requires a very specific kind of leadership,
Right.
one that can foster a shared vision
Yeah.
while also respecting the unique expertise of each department.
It's a delicate balance.
It makes you wonder if their current organizational structure is even equipped to handle this kind of ambitious plan.
That's a good point. Do they need to restructure, create new roles, bring in people with experience in running a more entrepreneurial operation?
These are all critical questions. And it speaks to a broader point about strategic design, I think.
Okay, what's that?
It's not just about having a great plan.
Right.
It's about having the right infrastructure,
Yeah.
the right culture, the right leadership to execute that plan effectively.
It's like having a state-of-the-art race car, but no skilled driver behind the wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All that potential.
Yeah.
But without the right execution, you're not going to win the race.
And in this case, the race is for survival and relevance in a rapidly evolving educational landscape.
Right. They're not just competing with other universities.
They're competing with online courses, boot camps, a whole range of alternative learning options.
So how do they make sure they stand out in that crowded marketplace?
It's a tough challenge.
Well, one thing they're doing is shifting to a fully English language program.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's a key part of their global outreach strategy. By removing the language barrier, they're opening themselves up to a much wider pool of potential students and clients.
Makes sense.
It also positions them as a more cosmopolitan, internationally minded institution.
Yeah.
which could be attractive to students seeking a global perspective.
But it also presents potential challenges.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, will they be able to attract and retain top-notch faculty who are fluent in English?
Right.
Will they need to adjust their curriculum to cater to a more diverse student body?
Those are all important considerations.
It's a classic example of how a strategic decision can have ripple effects throughout an organization.
Yeah, you have to think about the unintended consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it highlights the importance of not just thinking about the what of a strategy,
But also the how.
it's not enough to say we're going global,
You need to have a plan for how you're going to actually make that happen.
and how you're going to address the inevitable challenges that come with such a major shift.
It's all about execution.
And that brings us back to the concept of wicked problems that we talked about earlier.
Right? Those messy, interconnected problems.
The University of Antwerp isn't just facing a simple challenge with a straightforward solution.
They're grappling with a complex, interconnected web of issues.
And their success hinges on their ability to navigate that complexity.
To think systemically and to adapt their approach as they go.
So it's less about having a perfect plan from the outset.
And more about having a flexible framework.
Right, a willingness to experiment and the ability to learn from both successes and setbacks.
Exactly. It's an iterative process.
And it's where I think strategic design, with its emphasis on iterative processes and human-centered approaches, can be so valuable.
Right. It's not about finding the right answer.
It's about constantly refining and adapting your approach.
Based on feedback and changing circumstances.
And it makes me think about the Cobra effect we discussed earlier.
Oh, yeah, that cautionary tale.
The university needs to be mindful that their solutions, even those intended to create positive change,
Could have unintended consequences.
they need to be constantly evaluating their progress
Asking tough questions.
and be willing to adjust course if
Eh.
necessary.
The last thing they want is to implement a solution that creates more problems than it solves.
So how do they strike that balance between boldness and caution, ambition and pragmatism?
Well, their survival document mentions a testing phase,
Okay, a testing phase.
a period of experimentation and evaluation.
So instead of going all in on any one strategy.
They're taking a more measured approach.
Got it.
They're identifying key projects and investments that align with their overall vision,
Okay.
and then piloting those initiatives to see what works and what needs to be adjusted.
So it's like dipping their toes in the water before diving in head first.
Exactly. They're testing the temperature, assessing the currents before committing to a full swim.
And that allows them to gather valuable data,
Right.
learn from their mistakes,
Yeah.
and refine their approach as they go,
It's a much more agile and adaptive way of operating.
which is essential in today's rapidly changing world.
Absolutely.
But it also requires a certain level of tolerance for ambiguity, a willingness to embrace uncertainty.
Not every organization is comfortable with that.
Right. They want a clear plan, a predictable outcome.
And that's where leadership plays a crucial role.
Absolutely.
The leaders of the University of Antwerp need to be able to communicate this vision of strategic agility
Yeah.
to inspire their faculty and staff to embrace this more experimental approach
It's a shift from a command and control leadership style.
to something more collaborative and adaptable.
Exactly.
They need to create an environment where people feel empowered to experiment,
Yep.
to take risks, and to learn from their failures. That's how innovation happens.
And that's where the culture of an organization comes into play.
Right.
If the University of Antwerp has traditionally been a very hierarchical, risk-averse institution.
This shift to a more strategic, design-driven approach could be met with resistance.
It's almost like they're trying to change the DNA of the organization.
And that's not an easy feat.
It's a long-term process.
And it requires a deep understanding of the organization's values.
Its strengths and its weaknesses.
It's about creating buy-in from all levels.
From the faculty to the staff to the students.
Everyone needs to be on board.
And it circles back to that idea of their multidisciplinary approach being both a strength and a challenge.
Can they leverage the diverse perspectives and expertise within the department to create a truly innovative and adaptable culture?
That's the million-dollar question.
And it's something we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into the specifics of their plan and the potential implications for the future of design education.
This is really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
We're starting to see how strategic design is not just a set of tools or techniques.
Right.
It's a mindset, a way of thinking about problems and solutions.
It's about understanding the whole system, embracing uncertainty, and fostering a culture of experimentation and collaboration.
Exactly. And it's why this case study of the University of Antwerp is so intriguing. They're not just trying to survive.
They're trying to use strategic design to transform themselves.
To become a leader in a new era of design education.
And the big question is, will they succeed?
That's what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive.
We'll look at their specific plans for the Antwerp Design Factory, their approach to attracting international students, and the potential challenges and opportunities they face.
Stay tuned for the exciting conclusion. All right, so we've talked about the University of Antwerp's, strategic challenges, their bold vision for the future,
Right.
and all of the potential pitfalls they might encounter. But now let's get down to the concrete actions.
Yeah, what are they actually doing?
So their survival document gets pretty specific about their next steps, especially when it comes to the Antwerp Design Factory.
Right. That seems to be the core of their strategy.
Yeah, they see it as the heart of their new model,
Okay.
a place where theory meets practice. Students gain real-world experience, and the university actually generates revenue.
By tackling those real-world design challenges.
Exactly. But how do they make sure this doesn't just become a glorified internship program?
Right, where students are doing cheap labor for clients and the educational value gets lost.
Yeah, that's a real concern, I think.
Absolutely. And that's where the faculty's role becomes super important.
Okay.
They need to curate projects, really carefully selecting those that offer genuine learning opportunities for the students.
Right, so it's not just about finding any old client.
Exactly. It's about finding the right clients, the right projects, those that align with the university's educational mission.
And the students' learning goals?
It's like a matchmaking service for innovation.
I like that analogy. So it sounds like the faculty really need to step up their game, too.
Oh, yeah, they need to think like entrepreneurs, like consultants.
Right.
Identifying market needs, pitching projects, managing client relationships.
That's a whole different skill set than traditional academic teaching.
It might require some professional development.
Yeah, or even bringing in people with industry experience to mentor faculty and students.
That's a good idea.
It's blurring the lines between academia and industry.
It is, and it's challenging those traditional notions of what a university should be.
Do you think this is the future of design education?
It's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a trend worth watching. I think the landscape of education is changing so rapidly,
Right.
and universities are under increasing pressure to prove their value.
To show that their graduates are actually prepared for the real world.
This kind of industry-focused entrepreneurial approach could be one way to adapt.
But it also raises concerns about potential conflicts of interest.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If universities are becoming more reliant on industry funding, will that influence their research priorities,
Their curriculum choices.
even their academic freedom?
Those are valid concerns. Universities need to be very careful. They need to establish clear ethical guidelines.
Yeah, transparency is key.
And they have to maintain a strong commitment to academic integrity.
It's a tricky balance.
It is, but I do think it's possible to have those strong industry partnerships without compromising the university's core values.
So the University of Antwerp is kind of like the guinea pig in this grand experiment.
In a way, yeah. What are you most curious to see unfold as they go forward?
I'm really interested in the impact on the students.
Yeah, me too.
Will this hands-on, industry-focused approach actually produce graduates who are more creative?
More entrepreneurial, more adaptable to the demands of the job market.
Or will it create designers who are too narrowly focused on market demands?
Lacking that broader perspective and those critical thinking skills.
That are so essential for truly innovative and impactful design.
It's a crucial question.
And it highlights the importance of evaluating this experiment really carefully.
Not just looking at those short-term metrics like revenue and client acquisition.
Right. We need to assess the long-term impact.
On the students, the faculty, and the university as a whole.
It's also important to remember this is just one case study.
Right. It's one example of how strategic design can be applied in a specific context.
The lessons learned at the University of Antwerp may not be universally applicable.
But their journey is still incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it offers insights into the potential and the challenges of using strategic design to navigate change.
And to create a more vibrant and sustainable future for design education.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the most important takeaway is that strategic design is not just a set of tools.
Or techniques.
It's a way of thinking.
Right, a way of approaching challenges.
And opportunities. It's about understanding the system, embracing complexity, and fostering collaboration.
And ultimately, it's about recognizing that design can be a powerful force for positive change.
Not just in the things we create,
but also in the organizations we build and the future we shape. That's a great way to sum it up. So thank you everyone for joining us on this fascinating deep dive into strategic design. We hope you've learned something new, been inspired to think differently, and maybe even challenged some of your assumptions about the power of design. Until next time, Keep those brains buzzing and keep exploring the world with a strategic eye.